Thank you for joining us today. We will be covering Cyber Intelligence Program Plan for Tesla. The purpose of this presentation is to briefly cover the significance of today's cyber threat landscape, identify the key areas of focus, and provide recommendations to improve our overall business resilience. The agenda for today is: what is threat intelligence? What are the high visibility breaches? Who are the actors and their motivations, as well as their capabilities? What should we expect at our door? What is a cyber kill chain and how we can leverage it in our cyber threat intelligence program? What is working well today? Which threats we should expect now and in the future? And the risk reduction plan. Threat intelligence is effectively providing a context: who is attacking us, what are their capabilities, what to expect, therefore empowering our decision-making process of how to allocate resources to protect ourselves. The modern attack surface is rapidly growing. It is highly dynamic and increasingly interconnected, starting from on-prem and remote IT operations, internet-facing assets, web applications, public clouds, OT environments, and identities. All of those are being attacked based on what is the weakest point in our defenses and the easiest way of entry. The significant breaches that targeted those can be vulnerabilities, software vulnerabilities such as WannaCry, Log4Shell, and recently MOVEit, that attackers exploit in order to gain the access into the network. The internet-facing service that can be potentially running and have known vulnerable versions of Apache Struts in the case of Equifax. The Panama Papers showed us that the hackers breached multiple web application vulnerabilities due to outdated Drupal and WordPress systems, while Capital One data breach was tracked back to insecure S3 buckets. When it comes to OT, Icefall revealed 56 critical vulnerabilities across the most widely deployed assets in industrial infrastructure, with Laptus Okta breach took advantage of over-provisioned access. So who are the threat actors? What are their motivations and capabilities, and what shall we expect? It's a very broad term, and it's relatively all-encompassing. It extends to any person or group of people that possess a threat to our cybersecurity. The stereotypical hacker walking alone is no longer the main threat. Cyber hacking is a multi-million-dollar enterprise, complete with institutional hierarchies, research and development budgets, and the attackers use advanced tools such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation. Over the next several years, we should be expecting that all of that will expedite, from weeks to days to hours. The end-to-end attack cycle, from reconnaissance through exploitation, will shrink significantly. We can broadly describe threat actors as cyber criminals. Those are the individuals that commit cyber crimes, particularly for financial gain. Cyber terrorists that launch politically and ideologically motivated cyber attacks that threaten or result in violence. Nation-state actors that frequently fund threat actors for the goal of stealing sensitive data, gathering confidential information, or disrupting other governments' critical infrastructure. Hacktivists use techniques to promote political and social agendas, such as spreading the free speech. Thrill seekers usually attack computers and information systems primarily for fun. Some want to see how much sensitive information or data they can steal, and others want to use hacking to better understand how networks and computers connected. Insider threats. Some of them are incidental, relating to human errors, but some of them are malicious. For example, disgruntled employees who abuse access privilege to steal data. While we should expect all of the above actors targeting our operations, insider threat is the most prevalent, as we are discovering more and more potential intellectual property leaks from inside and/or former employees. So what are the general industry and Tesla specific threats? When it comes to general cyber threats overview, social engineering is still the top priority. There are denial of services or distributed denial of services attacks, advanced persistent threats, ransom and malware, various software exploits, as well as the credentials leakage. What are the general threat trends in 2023? While we're looking at the theft of credential as the top of the hierarchy, there are multiple cloud breaches, infrastructure as a code misconfigurations in the cloud. The recent exploit of MOVEit shown how prevalent it became in 2023, as well as the external attack surface. Ransomware is on the rise, and obviously the lateral movements. Once the attacker gets into the network, it tends to seek for the privileges to elevate those in order to exploit further and take complete command and control. The industry-specific threats when it comes to OT environments as ransomware, as recent years have shown, been very successful. The convergence of IT and OT infrastructure, which is basically promotes that lateral movement of exploits. The vanishing air gap. We used to be able to air gap our OT systems. That's no longer the case. That leads to vulnerable controllers, and potentially if any human or automation is allowed to make change into operational baseline, we're looking at financial losses as well as potential physical damage to our employees and immediate communities. Tesla-specific threats. We're experiencing a lot of targeted attacks to gain the credentials, as well as people are seeking to disclose our sensitive data and the insider threat that needs to be addressed. What is a cyber kill chain? It has been developed by Lockheed Martin, and it's a network defense mechanism. We can leverage it to protect organizations' network from advanced persistent threats and intercept in one of those stages when the attack is in motion. What are our recommendations? Well, first, let's cover what's working well. Our pen test discovered that we identify network and OS-based vulnerabilities well. We use our proprietary developed SIEM tailored to our risks, and we successfully automate. However, we've noticed that there's a decline in employees' morale over the last 3 years. We need to create mitigating actions for potential exposure of internal research and development plans. We need to create robust internal employee training, address the attack surface, especially when it comes to external perimeter-facing assets, and we need to deploy OT-specific security solution. What can we expect? Well, the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning is on the rise, as well as the expanded attack surface on OT infrastructure. So given all that, we recommend the risk reduction plan. We aggregate the data and we do the risk prioritization by the means of threat intelligence. And while we address our general threats and allocate the resources to specific threats that are on the rise, we need to be aware of what is industry-specific and Tesla-specific threats as well. So we need to look at the hardening of our systems in order to disable any services that we no longer need to minimize the attack path. We also need to create a specific department that deals with OT, cyber threats, and we need to address our organizational specific threats that include insider threat attacks, making sure that we are well protected. We should potentially look at introducing a different multi-factor authentication mechanism and possibly deploy zero trust model throughout the organization in order to protect the credentials. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please contact us at security@visa.